simplest one.
That's true. Hey, okay.
All right, so we're going to be starting off, and that's going to be Wanted, the Secret of Sinful Spoil, adding, the Diabell Star. The Diabell Star. There's many Diabells now.
True, true. I'm hoping at some point this weekend it'd be cool to see some white forest cards. But right now, we're going into the present tense of Diabell Star, activating the Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. Let's go ahead and probably put Snake Eye as Diabell Star, or who are we going to place here?
So this does feel like a little bit of a run back from the very first top 16 match. It is going to be Fiendsmith Yubel versus Fiendsmith Snake Eye. I mean, both decks are just so good, especially when it comes to going first. Like, disruption from the hand, knowing when how/when to time it is, like, pretty key.
Well, we are in Texas, so you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
That's
but
right.
Looks like we're going to go ahead and let this resolve, at least so far.
So we get Snake Eye's Diabell Star, and that's going to be sent away for the other Diabell Star, the Black Witch.
Oh, but it does resolve.
Now, we know that this does not mean that George's hand isn't that strong. Or rather, he prefers to be called Lucas, so I'm going to call him Lucas from now on. So Lucas probably has ways to kind of play around this. Like, he has his deck already teched out with those take cards from Game 1 that we've already seen previously.
No, certainly does. It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to call the match, right? We know what's going on, but we don't know where it's going because there's just been so many turns and twists through this roller coaster event. And right now, we're seeing relatively understated interaction from Lucas. He's not jumping in here, but that doesn't mean he's down and out. He might just clean the clock of these monsters with some Yubel monsters next turn.
So we've gone into original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, getting the Snake Eye Ash onto the field. That gets into the Poplar, added to hand. Poplar reveal, summon itself onto the field. And we are now here with the Relinquish Anima, putting the Poplar back into the Spell and Trap Zone. And that is going now into a link summon? No, this is the effect because we can't go into any links at the moment because we have no arrows. So that's going to go Oak effect. We're going to target the Poplar, summon Poplar back onto the field. So standard Snake Eye plays at the moment.
Interesting that we have no fear of Nibiru the Primal Being here, right? Just slamming cards and cards off the board. And here we go. It's Moon of the Closed Heavens, so it's Fiendsmith time. Going into Fiendsmith Requiem, using its effect to go ahead and bring out the Fiendsmith Engraver. And again, no interaction from Lucas here on the opposing side of the board.
I mean, this just could mean that Lucas has an extremely strong push hand.
Could just be, Snatch Steal, Mind Control, maybe some Yubels and Nightmare Pain. This may be a bad idea to put this many cards on the board, but looks like Ruben's going to keep on moving here.
Using the equipped Requiem, and we're going to activate the effect of Snake Eye Oak to summon out Flamberge. Snake Eye's Flamberge Dragon.
All right, now we're link summon off the Fiendsmith and Snake Eye Poplar, and that is going to bring us to a Fiendsmith sequence, since we included a Light Fiend.
See, here's the thing about sequence. We're going to get that fusion summon. But how do you sequence yourself into the sequence? I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
You can't see me on camera, but I am giggling quietly off stage. But it is just wild that you have so many different options. We've seen these combos eventually end up in the same place, but there's no one right way to do it. And that's nice because, hey, it's going to be 9 rounds tomorrow. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you put out a card in the wrong sequence. But you can still use the effects the way you want and get those powerful cards on the field.
And I think knowing where the lines are supposed to take you is really, really crucial. Now, what if Lucas has Nibiru? Nibiru and Imperm. That makes all the difference when it comes to building the entire field. You're just going to be dealing with a lot less when it comes to that.
Yeah, it really does. It seems like we could be getting close to I couldn't imagine you would run Triple D Wave King High or High Wave King Caesar. But it's possible. But it looks like right now we're just doing Fiendsmith Track. Go ahead and grab Fabled Lurie, discard Lurie, special summon Fabled Lurie from its own effect because it was discarded. Now just trying to decide where we're going next.
We're activating this to perform.
Wow.
What fusion is that, though?
It's got to be the Desiree.
I don't know if Desiree is legal here. Desiree is not legal here. There is no Engraver.
No Engraver. It's not just a Fiendsmith.
Mandatory material on there. So that is... Well, that's going to result in a procedural error minor on Ruben's part. That is something that you have to keep in mind.
Well, he does have to fuse somebody.
He technically doesn't have to fuse because the activation was already illegal. But he has a card in his hand. He fused from the hand. So we are still reaching into Desiree territory. Now remember, sequence can also equip on the field, so you don't need it in the graveyard to do the equipping effect.
That might be where we're going here. And again, Desiree didn't get to see it as much early in the tournament, but now as we get late, I think Duelists are already starting to understand how important non-targeting negation truly is.
So here we go. So we are going to be returning the Lacrima to the extra deck to summon out the Fiendsmith Engraver from the graveyard. Now the graveyard effect has also been used. We're going to an IP Masquerena down into the middle zone. Okay. Now we go into Fiendsmith. Sorry, not Fiendsmith. Snake Eyes. Oak into Ash. I mean, this could easily just pivot right into an Appaloosa if needed, but instead we're going to go and see Promethean Princess.
Certainly has had an incredible year through Master Duel and, of course, in the trading card game. But it's so nice to see the card putting in work. Again, bringing out that Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon, and now Desiree is going to go ahead and equip the sequence there. So this is a really strong board, and I think showcases why these two decks work together so well.
Oh, it's just incredible. Just both these decks, they just need names on the field. They just need monsters on the field, and then they just start generating all these things from the extra deck, all these things from the main deck. It's incredibly powerful. Now, currently, we are fire locked. So we're going to take all 3 of those monsters. We're going to negate the effect of the Promethean Princess to unfire lock ourselves with a Desiree, and now we go into the Appaloosa. So that is a very clever move here. So just in case those of you watching from, wasn't he fire locked? Well, Ruben was not fire locked. The moment, the Fiendsmith negated that monster, negated the Promethean Princess. What a smart way to pivot through.
It's a really great use case that sometimes your cards really can negatively affect you, and that's a good thing. And so again, yes, getting rid of the Promethean Princess Firelock there from its continuous effect did bring us here to Appaloosa. And so now, with that Dark Beckoning Beast hitting the field, I think it's pretty easy to say no with Appaloosa Bow the Goddess there, and that's going to make it kind of difficult. But here comes opening of the Spirit Gates to try again.
Now, is that a card that you would choose to negate? Nope, we are not negating it. And Lucas is going to get that search of Chaos Summoning Beast.
Now, while you negated that activated effect once per chain, you didn't get rid of the continuous effect, so it still is possible to normal summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack in addition to your normal summon.
But we're going to see the action from IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena has now performed a Link Summon into SP Little Knight.
And I spoke too soon. Now that the Dark Beckoning Beast may be leaving the field here, well, there's not going to be really a lot you can double normal summon into unless the Gruesome Grave Squirmer is chained, destroying a Dark Fiend monster and special summoning itself.
I'm not sure if you're going to choose to destroy the card, since that part is optional.
That is true.
We're going to have to wait and see if that's the direction, but that...
Oh, let it get banished. Okay.
That did not happen. The Appaloosa said no.
There's a lot of that going around this turn.
That is a 3-material Appaloosa. In other words, it had 2,400 attack, losing 800, still has 16. 2 more negations available based off of the attack stat.
And definitely some room to grow there. Now, speaking of room to grow, we are grabbing the original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, which is going to allow this field to just get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the strong points about Snake Eye is that the follow-up game of Snake Eye is just some of the strongest. Every card does something. We're going to activate Fiendsmith's Tract. That's going to get likely a Lurie or a Fiendsmith Engraver if the floor is already in hand. And that's going to be Fabled Lurie.
Gives you maybe a little bit of information about your opponents, right? Maybe they don't need the Fiendsmith Engraver the same way. Always decks you can kind of tell what might be in the hand based on what is searched out, but we're going to go ahead and discard the Grave Squirmer, is that right?
That is the Grave Squirmer being discarded. I mean, it does have a graveyard effect. Now it enables the discarding because that's very smart. So that enables the summon of both of those cards. That's a really smart pivot.
Add some good Fiendsmith sequencing, huh?
Because, yeah.
Light Fiend jokes aside, though, what happened here is by discarding the Grave Squirmer, that means a Fiend with 0 attack is in the graveyard. You can use the effect of the opening of Spirit Gates, discard the Fabled Lurie, and because Fabled Lurie was discarded, you can special summon it.
Now, with the summon of Lurie, that's going to trigger the Promethean Princess, that's going to destroy the Poplar, and that's going to destroy the Lurie, which is a great way to keep those Light Fiends off of the field. Now, keeping them off the table is very important, and with the Poplar effect, that's also going to put the Snake Eyes Duel Star into the Spell and Trap Zone in the middle.
Well, now we're seeing Nightmare Pain here, so the Yubelling is about to begin. We've seen how just the resolving of this card could really change the game. It looks like we are going to go ahead and, well, we got rid of the Gruesome Gravescrimmer. We're just going to instead destroy another Dark Fiend in our hand, cast Summoning Beast, and taking a look at what we might destroy next is going to be, okay, adding in the Spirit of Yubel.
I mean, that's not too bad. But, you know, I think Lucas is running out of cards to play.
Well, Lucas has had to take a lot of detours here, too.
So we're going to be putting back 2 monsters with 0 attack, including a Yubel monster, and going into Phantom Yubel. I mean, Phantom Yubel is just such a strong card. Not once per shot on the summoning, you know, makes all the difference for that card.
Well, it allows you to keep it up. Imagine a situation where you have a Phantom of Yubel. Previously, somebody might use Effect Veiler, Infinite Permanence, but Infinite Permanence is not enough on that one because, hey, just bring out another Phantom of Yubel later in the turn.
So we entered Battle Phase. In Battle Phase, the Phantom of Yubel is going to attack into Fiendsmith's Desiree. Now, Nightmare Pain is active, so the damage is going to be reflected onto Ruben.
52 to your 68. That's correct.
But I feel like that is a desperate attack here because normally you just don't want to go into Battle Phase, not with this kind of field. I mean, if we just do a basic card count, Appaloosa still there. That can turn off the Phantom of Yubel. We've got SP Little Knight. That can act as a banish. We still have the double negation that can turn off both of those cards in the Spell and Trap Zone. This is not looking too great on Lucas' side.
Well, we're only in game 1, but we may not be late for that as the cards pack up just as...
He like, in his interview, he mentioned that, hey, I'm going to expect that, hey, sometimes they're going to have it, and you just got to play better the next game.
That's why it's best 2 out of 3, right? You can lose one. It's not that big of a deal. And speaking of getting right back in, looks like we're going to go ahead and use the Fiendsmith Engraver to add Fiendsmith Track, play the Fiendsmith Track, and I assume grab Fabled Lurie.
Yeah. That particular...
Oh!
We're going to add that instead, which means...
Discard Fabled Lurie.
Yeah,
there it is. We were just talking about that.
But, you know, opening like that is not like the end of the world. It's not like that bad because having the Engraver in hand just means that, hey, if you're going to use like Fiendsmith Track to Fusion, you can fusion that card in your hand and you can still go into the Desiree, kind of what, you know, Ruben had to do in the previous game.
That's true. That's true. Having that hidden name for the Fusion Summon will be very useful later on. Maybe not hidden, but at least safe in the hand since we haven't seen too much hand destruction, at least for this game.
That's right.
Unless you count the Nightmare Pains. But that's a story for a different day.
Now, for anyone that's going to be watching the VODs, highly recommend checking out Game 1 to see how to play into the Nibiru. And Lucas definitely showcases that. So, of course, this is going to be the Fiendsmith line of play. We're going to go to double Fiendsmith into Fiendsmith Sequence. Sequence is now going to perform the fusion effect by putting back Light Fiend monsters into the deck, summoning a Fiend-based fusion monster, and that's going to be Fiendsmith's Locker Room. Locker Room is going to target the Fiendsmith Engraver in the graveyard, special summoning that onto the field, essentially going to generate 2 level 6 Fiend monsters on the field. And
Fiendsmith Engraver is never too far behind, right? Once you think he's down, he is not out. Beatrice Lady of the Eternal being made out of those rank 6/6s plays. Going to go ahead and send the Samsara D Lotus to the grave. Kind of telegraphs that we really need some help on the Yubel strategy right now.
But, you know, that's why the Beatrice is so strong, because this is going to link summon into the Muckraker. Muckraker can special summon back our Samsara D Lotus.
All right, so discarding a card. What are we getting rid of? Looks like just the other Fiendsmith. Great place to keep him in the graveyard. Be used for a later fusion summon, or maybe just be brought back out. Oh, but it looks like Effect Veiler there.
Perfect timing. Don't forget, that particular Samsara D Lotus does not have a quick effect. And that's going to basically lock it out for the turn. But that is going to be met with a Triple Tactics Talent.
Oh, and there's some board breakers if I ever saw one. Wow, if you put back the Poplar, that is a much different hand of just 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent and a Dark Ruler no more.
The Dark Ruler. Oh, boy. Well, this is a neat one. If the Dark Ruler does somehow stick, you're going to have to eat into... well, the triple attack if we're going to use a monster to negate it. Now let's think back here for a second. If we do get hit by the Dark Ruler no more, like, you have to somehow generate an interruption there by activating a trap card or something like that.
Well, it's difficult to do considering there's only spell cards in Ruben's hand right now, but looks like Lucas can play uninterrupted at this point and feel really confident knowing what it is that the opponent has. So this is really the custom combo, right? We're seeing Samsara D Lotus go ahead and turn into the wonderful Spirit of Yubel there.
Spirit of Yubel has placed the Nightmare Pain. I mean, Ruben.
This is definitely your chance, though. I mean, Ruben is a great duelist here, but that effect veiler, great as it is, it didn't really shut things down. So it is time to just put the pedal to the metal if you're Lucas and try to get as much as you can out.
I feel like the disruptions from hand in this format, from what we've seen so far in the past couple of rounds, it's not about completely stopping your opponent anymore, but just minimizing what your opponent has instead.
Not here to change the past, just make the future a little better.
You know, little the minute changes, little fraction of a percent, and all of a sudden it's a completely different place.
Now, speaking of different plays, it looks like we're going to go ahead and make an Unchained Soul of Lord of Rage by combining the Sharvara and the Yama there.
There's the trap card, the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. So that's going to re-enable, if we do see a Desiree play, that's going to re-enable the Desiree to turn off Dark Ruler no more. But that also enables the Triple Tactics talent. So do we allow that to go through and just hope that the top deck is not that great? It's like a gamble now.
It is, it is. All of these duels could go either direction, and it is just going to depend on what Ruben draws. But again, Ruben did secure that first game, so if you are cheering for our jump rope champion here, you needn't worry. He's got another game left in the tank.
Well, that Phantom Yubel has been summoned. It's just a little bit of insulation against, you know, potential monsters in the future.
Now, I think I saw the draw, and that might have been Nibiru the Primal Being.
6-card Nibiru. That is not a good feeling.
I think it might have been, and that is a pass. Now, by not putting any monsters on the board, that technically makes the Yubel equation a little less painful, but the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained is going to go ahead and bring up back the Soul Lord of Yama. So it looks like we can go ahead and just start attacking the old-fashioned way. Now, Yama did bring Shavara back to the hand as well. And yeah, draw for turn. There is just nothing happening over there with Ruben's
Now, where is the damage being dealt here? So how does Yubel gain damage when it comes to not having anything to crash into?
Well, obviously, the Soul Lord of Yama has attack points, which is nice.
2,000.
Fiendsmith Engraver is another way to get in.
Yep.
You could press a little hard into your own copy of Fiendsmith Desiree to not only have something to negate whatever it is that Ruben draws, but again, put something on the board with more than 0 attack points. They're great cards, but they don't do much if they can't crash into something and soak up that damage and spit it back out of the opponent with Nightmare Pain.
Okay, so the Terror Incarnate has been summoned onto the field. And now we're going to go Link Summon into Moon of the Closed Heaven.
This might be how we get those attack points on the board.
Activate.
We're going to be activating Fiendsmith Engraver. We're going to put back Sequence. That's a Link 1, and there's only one Link 1. That's going to be the Requiem. Now, Requiem also boosts attack points.
It does, it does. So there might be a way to get this done. Remember, it feels like turn 1 because of that effect filler in the graveyard, but this battle phase is open. So we've got to, if you're cheering for Lucas, put as many monsters on the board to try to close this out. But that steal is only going to get you to game 3. It does not crown our first representative in the World Championship for North America. Not yet. They've got to get 2 wins.
It's just really nice to see these particular lines of combo. We're not just seeing like, I'm going to do all my Fiendsmith combos all at once. Or I'm going to do all of my other combos all at once. But they're interweaving the combo to both decks' advantage, where I can maximize the number of cards in my hand while still playing Fiendsmith cards along the way.
No, they're both great themes. And speaking of what we were talking about earlier, take a look. It is Fiendsmith Desiree hitting the board there, and we're going to go ahead and banish the Gruesome Grave Squirmer to say hello again to Yubel Terror Incarnate being special summoned to the field and destroyed by the Sharvara.
Leave main phase.
That's a lot of attack points, I'd say.
I'll declare for 1,200.
I think that's enough damage. And even if that's not enough, the Lacrima hitting the Grave can deal another 12. I think that's more than enough to kind of clear out that game.
All right, Ruben.
That's right. For the WQP, the World Qualifying Points Playoffs, the top 2 players are going to earn a seat at the World Championship.
Well, it looks like we're going to have Ruben go first, and he's starting off with Bonfire.
Bonfire into Poplar. Poplar gets a summon. Are we going to see it? Is there Dogwood? No Dogwood.
I
mean,
feel
Dogwood,
like that's when we would have seen the spooky Dogwood.
Exactly. Maximize the number of life points you can gain. Like, a lot of the times it's about the surviving. And Lucas has said, like, sometimes when you drop the spooky Dogwood, all you got to do is, like, just survive it back and forth a little, save up a card or two, just do a full counter.
That's all you got to do. right? It's nice to see all these follow-up plays being just as impactful as the first turn. But speaking of first turn plays, we are seeing the Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. I'm probably going to grab the new favorite, Snake Eye's Diabell Star.
Yeah. So Diabell Star has been placed into Spawn Trap Zone. That can eventually summon out. And it gives you a little bit of active use of that card rather than a passive use. So that's going to go into Relinquish Anima. Relinquish Anima is going to put, the Poplar is going to put itself back into Spawn Trap Zone after being linked off. And now we have 2 materials to go into Moon of the Closed Heaven. Closed Heaven goes into Fiendsmith Requiem. I mean, Ruben is playing at a crazy fast pace. With 20 minutes left, he knows that these turns are going to take long for the interaction. He's hoping that maybe he can get back to a turn 3 so he can close out that game.
Absolutely. It does help that both duelists really are caliber duelists of just the highest degree. But at the same time, they also don't. And is that the first time we might have seen
Necroquip Princess? And we're going to see the summon of Fiendsmith. That's going to lead to a Beatrice play. Because this is again for the first time we're going to be seeing this particular play done on stream.
It's good to see all of the brand new Fiends and great level 6 fusion monsters in the Infinite Flipping get used.
That is Constellar Ptolemus M7.
Wow, now that is a blast from the past. We haven't seen that for a few formats, but it is a rank 6 Xyz monster.
Yeah, you can do a detacher with it, and you can put a card on the field or graveyard back into the hand. Yep. A lot of them opening play are putting the monster in the graveyard back into the hand. You can add back like different cards, like Poplar.
You can even do a Fabled Lure again for a follow-up discard.
Exactly.
But speaking of follow-ups, looks like Fabled Lure, and well, goodbye, Freds. We were so happy to see you, but you were going to turn into what looks like a Fiendsmith sequence.
See, they're bridging everything. They go in and out because the Link monsters requiring just one Light Fiend monster just makes it so easy to just all of a sudden generate 2 additional monsters. That's what it feels like right now. If you guys are watching from home or trying to understand, like, why are they going to sequence in and out? Like, why are they not doing it, like, in line? Because you can always save it. You can always save that card effect when you need it most to generate, like, 4 links worth of material or, a rank 6 worth of material onto the field. And it just keeps on going. Now they're going to Beatrice. Beatrice can quite easily just send in a Snake Eye Ash into the graveyard. But instead, we're seeing something completely different here.
Wow, really? I could not believe it.
That is going to be the Angel of Blue Tears. And if you banish that, you get to set a trap card straight from the deck.
That is wild. I mean, it just shows you how many cool creative options you can have. What
Beatrice is insane.
Beatrice is doing some cool stuff, but it's not just Beatrice. It's really Duelist taking advantage of all of these different cards. So nice to see it.
Angel of Blue Tears. Did not expect that, but here we are.
We have seen some interesting options. If you have been, talking around your local scene, you might have seen people talk about things like Ghost Meets Girl, a Mayakashi story, a transaction rollback. So a lot of really interesting, more defensive combos that aren't trying to get offensive. But no, absolutely right. Get to set a normal trap directly from your hand or deck.
That's really powerful. Now with the Flambird Dragon already on the field, and there are enough level 1s, we're going to be linking these away. I think the most generic one that we can probably go into is probably the IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena. And we also got a multiple chain link here from the Fiendsmith cards. So we've got Lacrima. Is it Lacrima's effect doing some damage? I believe so. And that's putting back the Fiendsmith Engraver.
1200, sort of a sacred number I haven't seen since Sword Soul.
Long Yuan?
Extra bits of effect damage really help, but so do life point gain. It's nice to see both duelists including cards that life points are a thing. Everybody's like, oh, life points don't matter. No, they do. That's your win condition.
Wow. The set card is going to be Different Dimension Ground. We're going to be playing under basically a dimension fissure.
Basically. Now, that is a really incredible use case there to just find there's a lot of different trap cards you could have set there. Of course, it does have to be a normal trap card. I can think of things like Dimension Fusion or something.
Barrier.
Barrier.
Barrier. Dimension Fusion.
Yes,
wow.
no,
really good.
But it's true that there's just so many cool trap cards that you can set, and Transaction Rollback obviously does a lot of help too. So it's nice to see that those cards are getting a little bit more use outside of just standard trap decks like Labyrinth, right? So this is, again, just an unbridled era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Creativity.
I think this is going to put Lucas in a very awful position. If there's no way for Lucas to stop that Different Dimension Ground, It's like putting the opponent under shifter.
That might be all she wrote. And remember, it's kind of a searchable Dimension Shifter, right? Dimension Shifter, great monster, you know. Looks like we got a little bit splashed off there, but we've already got it all together.
So the back row has now been put up with an IP Masquerena thanks to Flamberge, and we still have Promethean Princess. But Ruben plays with a fully loaded graveyard while the opponent is playing with no cards in the graveyard while trying to play under a banish redirection from the graveyard.
Well,
very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Gruesome Grave Squirmer is going to be squirming a little bit more when it doesn't hit the graveyard. But this could be really difficult. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, we know how incredible Lucas's sportsmanship is, but we also know his resolve and ability to come back from a duel that just looks like it is over for him. So I am not calling this one yet. We are just seeing more and more plays as we see Nightmare Phoenix, and then Snake Idea Bellstar hits the field from Poplar's effects.
They're just so strong. Okay, now we're going to go into a Link 4. And there's the Appaloosa. I mean, we're covering all bases here. We're covering all bases. There's no doubt about it.
Well, when the championship is on the line, all you can do is prepare with that first turn. Pass over to your opponent and just see what happens.
Lucas playing without a single disruption from hand. I think, here's the thing. If Lucas goes into his steel cards, he may even be able to squeeze this one out.
Well, this is the moment.
Because, like, that different dimension grant could backfire. I'm just saying right now. It could backfire, especially if you're forced to activate it while your Flamberge is still on the field. If it doesn't hit the graveyard, you could lose your entire field. We're seeing Nightmare Pain being activated.
Ghost Ogre rears its head again to go ahead and destroy Nightmare Pain before it even can activate.
Ooh,
but Triple Tactics talent is met with Cross-Out Designator.
Oh, the crowd goes wild on this
from
one.
the applause, understanding that this may be it.
Yeah, with the different dimension guard left over, this is going to be a very rough spot now.
Just absolutely incredible foresight there to say, no, I'm ready for anything, including the same cards I want to use against my opponent. Banishing that and saying no.
Unfortunately, there was no access to the Appaloosa. Now that we have the opening of the Spirit Gates activated, that's going to add a copy of Chaos Beast? Summoning Beast?
And maybe the Dark Beckoning Beast.
Dark Beckoning Beast it is.
Depends on what he had in his hand. It seems like Dark Beckoning Beast is the way, but with the Appaloosa still on the board and the IP Masquerena staring it down, this is looking quite critical.
Activate normal summon out Dark Beckoning Beast using its effect to add another copy of like the Spirit Gates. Are we going to preemptively make it so that every single type of cost is going to be basically not hitting the graveyard? That's also possible, but we're going to be adding opening of the Spirit Gates into hand. Or sorry, we're going to be adding the Beast rather.
Looks like we might be doing IP Masquerena's effect. I saw Ruben gesture to it, but nope. Instead, we are chaining. Oh, wow, and setting both cards there.
Oh, Ruben definitely missed the timing here for the different dimension ground, loading the entire graveyard already with these monsters. Will it be enough? Now, that's going to negate two monsters, likely going to be the IP Masquerena and the Appaloosa, two of the ones that will have the interaction. But don't worry, there's more interaction in the graveyard as well with the Promethean Princess. So not all is lost.
You certainly made a great point about those cards hitting the graveyard because, hey, that does look like Yubel and an effect monster, so at least one copy of Spirit of Yubel is on the way. Or Spirit of Yubel, Phantom of Yubel.
Phantom Yubel.
So
you've got a Phantom, you got a Spirit.
I waited a long time for all these Yubel cards. Man, 16 years later since its debut.
So we're going to be discarding the Fable Lurie, and that's going to summon out our... I think, do you still activate the DDG, the Different Dimension Ground?
At some point, you have to. You can't just let your opponent continue to clean up these cards, but maybe he wanted to wait, I guess. Just save it for some critical moment, but it...
Oh.
We'll see if that pays off. We are seeing the Flamberge Dragon hit the graveyard, so of course its effect is activated. We get Poplar and Snake Eye Oak. Going to search the deck here, Ruben adds an original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, and
he's
then
gonna
decides
the DDG. So the Different Dimension Ground has been activated, and this is all before the destruction. Is this before the destruction of the Lurie? But essentially, they want everything off that field, and they don't want it to hit the graveyard either.
All right, thank you.
That's going to be a little bit more difficult. Lucas taking a moment to think there, going through the extra deck. Plenty of ways to go forward, but this is going to be tough without access to the graveyard.
Yeah, without access to the graveyard, this is like completely hindering a lot of the recursion that comes from the Fiendsmith and the stuff that comes back from the Yubel side as well. I mean, the Yubel getting banished probably wouldn't matter too much, I would say.
Not too much.
Because it can be summoned back with Spirit of Yubel being destroyed. That still happens. That happens regardless.
Well, we talked about Lucas's durability and sportsmanship, but also experience is important too. Dimension Shifter happens every day, so you've got to know how to use these cards. But seems like we might be doing 2 chain links here, possibly negating the effect of the Fiendsmith Engraver and then trying to use IP Masquerena once again. But that wouldn't make too much sense because we do still have the Promethean Princess, and its effect has not been negated, not this time.
We're going to go into battle phase, and we're going to be attacking into the Promethean Princess, dealing a lot of reflected damage thanks to the, Nightmare Pain. Nightmare Pain plus Yubel. Of course, Yubel kind of going to be destroyed by battle, and therefore the damage is reflected. Engraver can swing into something else now. We're going to attack into the IP Masquerena. Well, IP Masquerena could just lead to a whole different lot of trouble here.
The only issue, while IP Masquerena was a great target, it probably could appear once again. A Flamberge Dragon is, well, probably not too far with a field set up the way that Ruben has it. And using Flamberge Dragon's effect to place it in the Spell and Trap Zone means we're probably going to be seeing it again soon. Oh, but the Dimension Ground works on both players, so it is going to be banished, and was a good call, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, that means that, we're not going to see Flamberge Dragon putting it back in the Spell and Trap Zone again.
Not this time, but there are very few targets left for Flamberge Dragon if it tried. We are going to return those 2 cards we talked about earlier for Phantom of Yubel, but it looks like that's the last of it. No more hands, so at this point it's just the extra deck and a prayer.
This is a tough spot. I think that Different Dimension Gun definitely did its magic. It's slowed the entire ability of Lucas to even make a field that is resilient to all the stuff that we have to offer here now. Promethean Princess is still on the field, and well, sure, we don't have the IP Masquerena, but I don't think the IP Masquerena is going to matter too much. I think all that we care about is how many monsters we're going to be able to generate, just simply summoning them onto the field. Now, we have to be careful, though. We don't want to accidentally trigger the Phantom of Yubel at the wrong timing and lose a really crucial effect. So Ruben carefully calculating the different line that is going to, basically do a little bit of min-maxing, like which one can I basically eat, and then which one can I eat and still win.
Lucas is definitely in that very familiar space that when we're legally allowed to play Battle on Deflail, we can still play it on Master Duel, of course. You have to know when to use that one effect, and when it's the only effect you have, that decision really determines whether you win or lose the duel.
Yeah, this is a tough spot. Very, very, very tough spot. Now, there's several things for Ruben to clear. One, Phantom of Yubel needs to be answered because it cannot be destroyed by battle. I don't think the owner takes battle damage regarding that card. 2, there's a Nightmare Pain on the field, forcing you to attack into that Phantom of Yubel. So those are 2 limitations that we are facing right now. But aside from that, that could be it. But there's also the effect of Phantom of Yubel that can also kind of come into play and force another Yubel monster onto the field.
Well, we still should have at least 1 negate left from Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. I only believe that it used it once, but even so, pushing forward, you have to. Again, this is it. With only 6 minutes or so left on the clock, every second ticking by.
I mean,
getting closer.
Ruben got what he wanted. I mentioned earlier, Ruben played, at top speed, Mach 6, made his field just so that he can get the turn 3, and we are now in turn 3 with ample time to think and rebuild the field and essentially attempt to go for game.
That Angel of Blue Tears does a lot of work. I'll be thinking about all the cool trap cards that I could go ahead and get to the field banishing it. That's going to be some fun stuff later in the format. But for now, here comes Snake Eyes, Diabellstar, slamming down onto the field, and it looks like we're going to link off our 2 Snake Eye level 1 monsters, Ash and Poplar, to make a Moon of the Closed Heaven.
Unfortunately, it's not pointing to that Yubel. If it was, we probably could have seen another cool play if we have a rank 5, or sorry, link 5.
It's true that we've seen Moon of the Closed Heaven a lot. Man, I would love to see a little Underworld Goddess action, being able to use 2 link materials from your opponent's side of the field. Very cool.
Just 2 and 2. 2 on your side, 2 on their side.
Yeah,
wow,
that sounds
what could
great.
go wrong?
But looks like we're going to go ahead and use instead the Fiendsmith Requiem's effect to bring out Fiendsmith Engraver.
So there are many ways for Ruben to kind of clear out this field. Now we're going to go Engraver, get equipped by the Requiem. Requiem can technically send away that Yubel, if I'm not mistaken, but that's going to likely cause a chain reaction. I don't think that's going to be that great of an effect to do. There's multiple things, but we're going to attempt to do
doing
it. That's going to be chained, and that's going to destroy a card. So
Okay.
we get to keep the equip because we don't get to send either. This is going to destroy the Spirit of Yubel, and Spirit of Yubel is going to summon a regular Yubel, and regular Yubel can kind of tag into the next Yubel. So it's definitely not that easy.
Well, we still have to get through, but it looks like we're going to go ahead and get rid of that using the effect there. Oh, and now swap out into Promethean Princess. I see. So we destroyed it using the effect Promethean Princess and getting rid of the Snake Idea Bellstar.
Okay, now we can push it. See, there's two ways to kind of push a monster to the back. One, using the effect of Flambridge Dragon. The other one is using Snake Eyes Diabellstar on the battle to push a monster to the back. And those are the different ways that we can do it. Now we have ample time to go into the battle phase at this particular point.